Hello everyone, Rick Dale, the master craftsman whose face became synonymous with American Restoration, a hit History Channel show that captivated audiences with its unique blend of nostalgia, artistry, and the magic of bringing forgotten relics back to life, lived what many thought was a dream life, surrounded by his family, doing the work he loved, and sharing it with millions of fans around the world. Yet few realized how quickly that dream would unravel when a tragic accident struck, causing not only devastating injuries, but also setting into motion the painful ending of his career in the spotlight. And as the years have passed, the truth of what happened has become clearer. A story not just about a man's fall from fame, but about resilience, family, and the cruel way that fate can dismantle even the strongest of men. To understand the gravity of the accident, one must remember who Rick Dale was before it all began. A man with grease on his hands and passion in his veins, a craftsman who could look at a pile of rust and see a work of art waiting to be reborn. A leader who brought his wife Kelly, his son Tyler, and other family members into the business, turning Rick's Restorations into a family brand that felt authentic in a world of manufactured reality TV. And when American Restoration debuted, fans instantly connected with the charm of a man who wasn't an actor, but a real craftsman, someone who spoke from the heart and showed that hard work, creativity, and family values still mattered. But behind the shiny finishes of jukeboxes, soda machines, motorcycles, and neon signs was a grueling, physically demanding lifestyle that required long hours, heavy lifting, exposure to sharp tools, welding sparks, and machines that could maim or kill if handled improperly. Rick knew the risks but loved the work, often pushing his body beyond its limits to meet production deadlines, satisfy clients, and live up to the growing expectations of millions of viewers. And it was during one of those ordinary but high-stakes days that tragedy struck. An accident that changed everything in an instant. Though details were initially kept quiet, insiders later revealed that Rick suffered a severe injury while working with heavy machinery, an incident that left him incapacitated, in excruciating pain, and suddenly unable to perform the hands-on tasks that had defined his career. And while fans at the time believed the sudden end of American Restoration in 2016 was due solely to the network's desire to shake up programming, the painful truth was that Rick was no longer physically able to carry the show the way he once had, as his body had been compromised, leaving him battling both physical limitations and emotional despair. For a man whose identity was built on using his hands to restore beauty to the broken, the cruel irony of his own body betraying him was devastating. And Rick admitted in later interviews that the hardest part wasn't just the injury, but the realization that he could no longer lead his shop in the same way, that he had to watch from the sidelines as others carried the torch, and that sense of helplessness nearly broke him. Family members recalled how he fell into depression, nights spent staring at the ceiling, asking if this was how his story would end, questioning why fate had taken away the very thing he loved most. And though Kelly, Tyler, and the rest of the family tried to reassure him that his legacy was intact, Rick couldn't help but feel that he had let down his fans, his crew, and himself. At the same time, the History Channel, facing the pressures of ratings and business, quietly distanced itself from Rick's struggles, pivoting away from American Restoration and leaving him without the platform that had once celebrated his genius. And the silence from the network only deepened his pain, making it clear that in Hollywood, even reality stars are expendable when their bodies can no longer deliver. Yet what the cameras never showed was the loyal fan base that refused to forget him, flooding his social media with messages of love, encouragement, and heartbreak, demanding answers for why their favorite show had been pulled and why Rick had seemingly vanished, not realizing that behind the scenes, he was struggling just to walk without pain, let alone lift the tools of his trade. Friends who visited him after the accident described a man torn between gratitude for surviving and anguish over losing his purpose. And while he eventually began to heal physically, the scars on his spirit lingered as he admitted that every time he saw a rusted object to fix it, but his body reminded him of his limitations. In time, Rick began to focus more on teaching, passing his knowledge down to others, sharing tips online, and reminding fans that while he could no longer do the work at the same scale, his wisdom and legacy lived on through every lesson, every story, and every restoration completed in his name. And slowly, he found peace in the idea that though the accident ended one chapter, it didn't erase the mark he had made. Looking back, Rick often spoke of the accident as both a curse and a strange blessing, for it forced him to slow down, to appreciate the family that had stood beside him, and to understand that while the lights of television fame may burn out, the love of those who truly care will always shine. And in his story, fans found both heartbreak and inspiration, a reminder that even tragedy can't erase a legacy built on passion, family, and authenticity. Today, the tragic accident remains the defining moment that caused the ending of Rick Dale's career on television. But for those who followed him from the beginning, he will always be remembered not as the man who fell, but as the craftsman who gave everything, body, mind, and soul, to his art. And though the ending was painful, his journey will forever live on in the memories of those who tuned in each week to see Russ turn to glory, and in the countless hearts he touched with the simple truth that even broken things can be made beautiful again, until the day fate decided to test that belief on Rick himself. Thanks for watching.